The sensor array aboard the galactic exploration vessel Harmonious Discovery had detected countless anomalies across 17 star systems, but nothing quite like this. Captain Zeldar, a distinguished member of the Valorian species with their characteristic crystalline skin that refracted light in prismatic patterns, stared at the readouts with all four of his optical sensors widened in disbelief. "Run the classification protocols again," he commanded, his translator implant converting his melodic native tongue into galactic standard. There must be an error. His second officer, Lieutenant Kree, a methodical Threxian whose species prided themselves on computational accuracy, manipulated the holographic controls with her nimble tentacles. The data refreshed, but the results remained unchanged. "No error, Captain," Kree reported, her voice carrying an undertone of concern that transcended species. "The vessel is confirmed as Class 3 Death World construction. Hull composition matches materials that would only be necessary for survival in extreme gravitational and radiation environments. The power signature suggests a fusion core operating at temperatures that would vaporize most known species." Zeldar felt a chill ripple through his crystalline structure. Death World-class vessels were the stuff of cautionary tales in the Galactic Union. They were built by species who evolved on planets classified as Death Worlds, celestial bodies so hostile that merely existing there required biological and technological adaptations that seemed impossible to civilized spacefaring races. Class I Deathworlders were rare enough. Class II were whispered about in academic circles. But Class III, there were only 5 known Class III Death Worlds in the entire cataloged galaxy, and only 2 species from such worlds had achieved spaceflight before going extinct, their biology simply too aggressive and unstable for sustained civilization. "What's the crew complement?" Zeldar asked. Kree's tentacles trembled slightly. "Biosigns indicate approximately 200 life forms. Captain, the thermal signatures matched the database entry 4 humans." The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of ship systems. Every crew member present turned their attention to the captain. Humans, the newest addition to the Galactic Union, a species that had appeared only 3 cycles ago with their crude but functional FDL drives, emerging from a Class 3 death world they called Earth. When humanity's application for Union membership had been processed, it had caused considerable controversy. Their homeworld was a nightmare by any civilized standard. A gravity well that would crush most species, atmospheric oxygen levels that were literally combustible, weather systems capable of producing winds that exceeded starship velocities, tectonic activity that regularly reshaped continents, and radiation exposure from their star that would require extensive shielding for most spacefarers. And yet, humans thrived there. They had evolved not just to survive, but to flourish in conditions that would constitute a systematic extinction event for most Union species. "Hail them," Zeldar ordered. "Standard first contact protocols, and activate defensive shields." Just as a precaution, the communications officer, a young Pelothian named Vix, manipulated his console. "Channel open, Captain. Unidentified vessel. This is Captain Zeldar of the Galactic Union exploration ship Harmonious Discovery. We mean you no harm. Please identify yourself and state your purpose in this sector." The response came almost immediately, and it was accompanied by something the Discovery's crew hadn't expected: laughter. Rich, genuine laughter that seemed to carry warmth even through the cold translation matrix. "Harmonious Discovery. This is Commander Sarah Chun of the Terran survey ship Indomitable. Well, this is a pleasant surprise. We're conducting a survey mission of the Epsilon Strand Nebula. Didn't expect to run into anyone else out here. Everything okay on your end?" Zeldar exchanged glances with Kree. The human's casual tone was disarming. "Commander Chun, our sensors indicate your vessel is constructed to Class 3 Death World specifications. Is your crew entirely human?" Another laugh, shorter this time. "That's right, Captain. 215 humans, to be exact. Is there a problem?" "No problem, Commander," Zeldar replied carefully. "We were simply surprised. Such vessels are extremely rare. Would you be amenable to a cultural exchange? The Union is still learning about your species." There was a pause on the other end. "We'd be honored, Captain. Transmitting docking protocols now. Fair warning, though. Our ship's environmental systems are calibrated for Earth normal conditions. You'll need to wear full environmental suits if you come aboard. As the Discovery maneuvered closer to the human vessel, the crew got their first clear visual. The Indomitable was massive, easily dwarfing the exploration ship. Its hull was a dark, matte gray that seemed to absorb sensor beams rather than reflect them. Weapon emplacements, far more than any civilian vessel should carry, dotted its surface. Heat radiators glowed a dull red, venting excess energy that would have fried most ship's systems. By the first light, Kree whispered, "It's beautiful in a terrifying sort of way." Zeldar selected a small diplomatic team and donned his environmental suit. The suit's readouts immediately began displaying warnings about the conditions they'd encounter aboard the human ship. Gravity at 1 g, nearly twice what Valorians found comfortable. Oxygen levels at 21%, dangerously reactive, and temperature at 22 degrees Celsius, uncomfortably warm. The airlock cycling was jarring. When the inner door opened, Zeldar found himself facing Commander Sarah Chun in person. She was relatively small by Deathworlder standards, perhaps 1.6 meters tall, but she moved with a confidence that spoke of perfect adaptation to her environment. Her dark eyes sparkled with genuine curiosity and friendliness. "Captain Zeldar, welcome aboard the Indomitable," she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Zeldar carefully mimicked the gesture, his suit's servos compensating for the crushing gravity. "Let me give you the grand tour." As they walked through the corridors, Zeldar's observations began to paint a picture of humanity that was both fascinating and humbling. The crew moved with efficient grace, their bodies adapted to conditions that would require expensive gravity compensation for most Union species. Children, actual juvenile humans, played in a recreation area under supervision, laughing and running in the deadly gravity as if it were nothing. "This corridor can withstand direct exposure to space," Chin explained casually. "We learned early on that redundancy is survival. The hull is layered with materials that can handle everything from micrometeorite impacts to high-energy particle radiation. We over-engineer everything because, well, where we come from, nature doesn't give you second chances." They passed a medical bay where a human physician was treating a crew member's broken arm, an injury sustained during a routine maintenance operation. The doctor worked efficiently, explaining that bone fractures were common in human society and healed naturally within weeks. Zeldar knew that most Union species would require extensive medical intervention and months of recovery for similar injuries. The engine room was perhaps the most impressive. The fusion reactor operated at temperatures that exceeded the surface of many stars. Human engineers worked around it with practiced ease, monitoring systems and making adjustments. One engineer, noticing the visitors, waved cheerfully. "Don't worry, Captain," Chin said, noting Zeldar's nervous body language. "The radiation shielding is robust. We wouldn't want to cook our guests." "Commander," Zeldar ventured, "I must ask, why do your people choose to crew vessels like this? With genetic modification or uploaded consciousness, you could adapt to more comfortable conditions." Chin paused, and for the first time, her expression grew serious. "That's a question our philosophers debate endlessly. But I think the answer is simpler than it seems. She gestured around the ship. "This is who we are. We're the species that looked at Earth, with all its earthquakes and hurricanes and predators and diseases, and said, we're going to master this. Not escape it, master it." She led them to an observation deck where the nebula spread out before them in brilliant colors. "Every human on this ship grew up on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We learned to build better, to plan ahead, to never give up. When we reached for the stars, we didn't try to recreate some paradise. We brought Earth with us, the gravity, the atmosphere, the challenges. Because those challenges made us who we are." A young crew member approached with a tray of refreshments. "Thought your guests might appreciate something from the galley," he said. "We have some synthesized nutrition packets that should be compatible with most Union species." Chin smiled. "Thank you, Jackson. This is Ensign Tom Jackson, one of our stellar cartographers. Tom, this is Captain Zeldar of the Harmonious Discovery." Jackson grinned, that peculiar human expression of bared teeth that somehow conveyed friendliness rather than aggression. "Pleasure to meet you, sir. If you're interested, I've been mapping some fascinating protostellar formations in this region. Happy to share the data." As the visit continued, Zeldhar's initial apprehension transformed into genuine admiration. These humans weren't the aggressive monsters that some Union members had feared. They were explorers, scientists, dreamers, people who happened to be capable of thriving in conditions that would terminate most other species to eye in the ship's botanical garden, a massive chamber filled with earth plants growing in Earth gravity and atmosphere. Chen revealed something unexpected. We maintain these not just for food and oxygen recycling, but for our mental health. Humans need nature. We evolved with these plants, these ecosystems. Being away from them for too long, it affects us. You get homesick, Zeldar observed. Exactly. So we bring home with us. She plucked a bright red fruit from a tree. This is an apple. On Earth, there's an old saying. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Probably not literally true, but it speaks to our connection with our world. As the diplomatic visit concluded and Zeldar prepared to return to his ship, Chen walked him back to the airlock. Captain, I hope our vessel didn't alarm you too much. We're not trying to be intimidating. This is just how we live. Zeldhar's crystalline body refracted the corridor lights as he considered his response. Commander Chen, your people and your vessel are indeed formidable. But what I've learned today is that your greatest strength isn't your ability to survive in hostile conditions. It's your unwillingness to let those conditions define you. You don't merely survive. You explore, you create, you dream. That is remarkable. Chen's face lit up with that warm human smile. That might be the nicest thing anyone said about humanity since we joined the Union. Safe travels, Captain. Maybe we'll run into each other again out here among the stars. As the harmonious Discovery undocked and began its journey back to Union space, Zeldar compiled his report. He knew it would cause a stir in the Galactic Council. Humanity wasn't an anomaly to be feared or controlled. They were pioneers, partners in the great endeavor of exploring the cosmos. That night, or what passed for night in the artificial cycles of a starship, Zeldar stood alone in his observation room, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Indomitable continued its mission, 200 humans boldly going where few others would dare, carrying with them the indomitable spirit of a Class 3 death world. For the first time in his long career, Zeldar understood what the ancient human phrase meant. Fortune favors the bold. And humanity, born from a world that would have been any other species' doom, was perhaps the boldest species the galaxy had ever seen. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but perhaps the greatest wonder was this, that from the crucible of a death world, a species could emerge not with hatred or aggression, but with curiosity, compassion, and an unquenchable desire to reach for the stars. Commander Sarah Chun and the crew of the Indomitable were proof that humanity belonged among the stars. Not despite their death world origins, but because of them. They had taken everything their harsh world had thrown at them and transformed it into strength, resilience, and an irrepressible hope for the future. As Zeldar began writing his report, he smiled, an expression he had learned from humans. The galaxy was about to discover what the crew of the harmonious Discovery already knew. Humanity wasn't just another species. They were pioneers, dreamers, and survivors. They were, in every sense of the word, extraordinary.